After the box was discovered, the remaining members of Alice in Chains had to confront a difficult truth they'd been avoiding for years. They knew Layne was struggling. They knew he was isolated. They knew he was in pain, but they didn't know how much he was documenting it, how aware he was of his own decline, how deliberately he was saying goodbye. Mike Starr, who had left the band in 1993 but remained one of Layne's closest friends, was devastated by the discovery. In 2010, during filming of Celebrity Rehab, he talked about the box for the first and only time on camera. "I knew he was keeping journals," Mike said, his voice breaking. "I just didn't know they were goodbye letters. If I'd known, I don't know what I would have done differently," but the guilt ate at Mike. He'd visited Layne in 2001, one of the last people to see him alive. Layne had looked like a skeleton, weighed maybe 90 pounds. His teeth were falling out, his skin was grey, but his eyes, those eyes, still held something. Recognition, love, a desperate plea for help that his mouth couldn't form into words. "How you doing, brother?" Mike had asked, though the answer was obvious. "I'm still here," Layne had whispered, and Mike didn't understand until years later what those words really meant. Not, "I'm surviving," but, "I'm still here and I don't want to be." Sean Kinney, Alice in Chains' drummer, made a different choice. He refused to listen to the personal tapes, refused to read most of the notebooks. "That's not for me," he said in a 2015 interview. "That was between Layne and whatever he was talking to. I got to know him alive. I don't need to know him dying. I don't want my last memories of my brother to be his voice on a tape, counting down to the end." Sean's way of coping was to remember the good times, the early days when they were kids, playing clubs in Seattle, when success was still a dream, not a curse, when Layne would crack jokes between songs and God, his laugh, could fill a room. Sean chose to hold on to that Layne, not the one in the box. But Jerry Cantrell couldn't let it go. As Layne's closest friend, his musical partner, his brother in every way that mattered, Jerry felt he owed it to Layne to bear witness, to know the full truth, to carry that weight so others didn't have to. Jerry listened to every tape, read every notebook, read every letter, and it nearly destroyed him. "People ask me why I didn't do more," Jerry said in a rare 2018 interview. "Why didn't I force Layne into rehab? Why didn't I break down his door? Why didn't I save him?" And the answer is in those tapes. Layne didn't want to be saved. He'd made peace with it, and as much as that kills me, as much as I wish I could have changed his mind, I have to respect it. You can't save someone who's already decided to let go. The tapes revealed something Jerry had suspected, but never wanted to believe. Layne's final years weren't about losing a battle. They were about waiting for the moment when he felt ready to follow Demri, waiting for the pain to become unbearable enough that death felt like relief instead of defeat, waiting for a door to open. On one tape from 1999, Layne talked directly to Jerry, as if knowing Jerry would eventually hear it. "Brother, I know you're going to blame yourself. Don't. You did everything you could. You gave me music when I had nothing else. You gave me purpose when I felt purposeless. You gave me a reason to stay as long as I did. If I'd been alone, I would have left years ago. You bought me time, and some of that time was even good. Remember the good parts, Jerry. Remember when we were kids and the music was everything. Remember before it all got so heavy. That's who I want you to remember. Not this, not the ending. Remember the middle. Remember when we were brothers making noise in a basement, thinking we could change the world. We did change it, man. We actually did, and that's enough. That's more than enough." Jerry broke down the first time he heard that, and every time since. 3 days after the initial discovery, Nancy McCallum was going through the box one more time, making sure they hadn't missed anything. That's when she felt it. A weight at the bottom that didn't match the contents. She removed everything and found it. A false bottom. A thin piece of cardboard that looked like the natural base of the box but lifted away to reveal a hidden compartment underneath. Inside was a smaller box, a wooden jewelry box with intricate carvings on the lid, roses and thorns intertwined, beautiful and painful at once. The box had a small lock. The key was taped to the bottom with a piece of masking tape. On the tape, in Layne's handwriting, "Only if you're ready." Nancy's hands shook as she peeled off the tape and unlocked the box. What she found inside made her close it immediately. She sat there for 20 minutes, staring at the closed box, trying to decide if she should open it again, trying to decide if what she'd seen was real or if grief was making her see things that weren't there. Finally, she opened it again. And yes, it was still there, still real, still impossible to explain. Inside the wooden box were Polaroid photographs, 23 of them. But these weren't photos of people or places or memories. These were photos of doors, just doors. Different doors in different locations. Some looked like apartment doors, some looked like doors to houses. One was clearly a door in a recording studio, another looked like a hospital door, one was the door to a small boathouse. The photos themselves weren't strange, it was what was written on the back of each one that made Nancy's blood run cold. Each photo had a time and a name. The first photo, dated March 28, 1994, showed a weathered wooden door with peeling green paint. On the back, Kurt found his door today. Lake Washington Boathouse. Stood there for an hour. I felt him. On the other side. He's not alone anymore. Nancy felt dizzy. March 28, 1994, was 2 weeks after Kurt Cobain died. 2 weeks after his body was found in the greenhouse above the garage at his Lake Washington home. But Layne had found a different door, a boathouse door, and somehow he believed it was Kurt's doorway to wherever Kurt had gone. The second photo, dated October 30th, 1996, showed a familiar door. Nancy recognized it immediately. The apartment on Capitol Hill where Layne and Demri had lived together. The door was slightly ajar in the photo, warm light visible through the crack. On the back, Demri, her door was here all along. The place we were happiest. She's waiting for me here. I can feel her. Soon. October 30th, 1996, was 12 days after Demri died. Nancy kept going through the photos, each one more disturbing than the last. Names she recognized. Musicians from Seattle who had died. Andrew Wood, March 1990. Stephanie Sargent from 7 Year Bitch, June 1992. Kristen Pfaff from Hole, June 1994. Names she didn't recognize. People Layne must have known personally, but who weren't famous. Friends, acquaintances, fellow travelers who'd gone through their doors before him. 23 photos total, 23 people who had died, 23 doors that Layne had somehow found and photographed. As if he had a map to the places where the barrier between life and death was thinnest. As if he could see doorways the rest of us couldn't. But it was the last two photos that made Nancy call Jerry Cantrell in the middle of the night, her voice shaking so badly he could barely understand her. The second to last photo showed Layne's apartment door, the door to Unit 205 at 4528 8th Avenue Northeast. His front door, photographed from the hallway. The door was slightly open, just a crack, bright white light streaming through. The photo was sharp, clear, recent. The timestamp on the Polaroid read April 4th, 2002, 11:47 p.m., 1 day before Layne died. On the back, in Layne's handwriting, mine. Finally found it. It was here, all along. Right here. My door. Tomorrow night, I'm walking through. Demri's on the other side. I can hear her calling me home. I'm ready now. I'm finally ready. Jerry's voice when Nancy read that to him. Jesus Christ, he knew. He knew exactly when he was going to die. Nancy whispered into the phone. And, Jerry, I don't know what this means. I don't know if I'm losing my mind, but I need you to see it. The last photo in the box showed the same door, Layne's apartment door. But this photo was taken from inside the apartment, looking at the closed door. Light was visible underneath and around the edges, impossibly bright light, as if the sun itself was on the other side. And in the reflection on the door's glossy surface, barely visible, you had to look closely, but definitely there, were shapes, human shapes, 3 figures standing in the light. Nancy had looked at this photo for an hour with a magnifying glass. She'd convinced herself she was imagining it. That grief was making her see things that weren't there. But the more she looked, the clearer they became. One figure with long dark hair, Demri, one shorter, slighter figure, Kurt, and one in the back, taller, smiling, Andrew Wood maybe, or someone else Layne had known and lost. The timestamp on this photo, April 5th, 2002, 3:52 a.m. Nancy's voice was barely a whisper. Jerry, The coroner said Layne died on April the 5th around 3:47 a.m. This photo was taken 5 minutes after he died. 5 minutes after. Silence on the other end of the phone. Then, that's impossible. The timestamp must be wrong. The camera must have been broken. That's what I thought, Nancy said. But look at the photo, Jerry. Really look at it. Someone took this picture from inside the apartment 5 minutes after Layne's heart stopped beating. Maybe he set a timer, Jerry suggested, grasping for rational explanations. Maybe it was delayed somehow. Maybe, Nancy said. Or maybe she couldn't finish the sentence because the alternative was too impossible, too supernatural, too much to accept. Or maybe Layne took the photo himself after he died, walked through his door. One final documentation of his journey, proof that the doors were real, that Demri was waiting, that death wasn't an end, but a doorway. At the bottom of the wooden box, underneath all the Polaroids, was a folded piece of notebook paper. The paper was worn, as if it had been folded and unfolded many times. The handwriting was Layne's, but it changed throughout. Some parts, neat and careful, others scrawled and desperate. Jerry drove to Nancy's house at 2 a.m. They sat at her kitchen table, and Nancy read the note out loud. I don't know how to explain this. People think I'm high. They think I'm delusional. Maybe I am. But I know what I've seen. It started 2 weeks after Kurt died. I was driving around Seattle at 3 a.m. and ended up at Lake Washington. I saw a green wooden door on an old boathouse, and it was different, humming, alive. I put my hand on it and felt Kurt on the other side. I went back the next day with a Polaroid camera. That's when I realized I could find them, the doors. When someone I know dies, I see their door, a specific location in Seattle. And if I find it and photograph it, I can feel them. I can say goodbye. Over the years, I've found 22 doors, and now I've found mine. Yesterday, April 4th, my front door, the door I've walked through 1,000 times, was different, glowing, and I felt them all. Kurt, Demri, everyone who's gone through. Demri was so strong, like she was right there, calling my name. Come home. Stop waiting. I photographed my door. Tomorrow night, I'm walking through. I'm not scared. I know what's on the other side. Death isn't darkness. It's light. It's home. I'm setting up the camera for one last photo. Proof. Not for me. For whoever finds this and thinks I'm crazy. The doors are real. And tomorrow I'm walking through mine. Don't be sad. I'm not lost. I'm found. The note ended there. Nancy and Jerry sat in silence, trying to decide what it meant. Was Layne mentally ill? Or had he seen something real that the rest of us are too blind to see? The biggest mystery remained. The last Polaroid, taken at 3:52 a.m. on April the 5th, 2002. 5 minutes after Layne died, Jerry became obsessed. He had the timestamp verified. The camera was working properly. The date and time were accurate, which meant 3 possibilities. Option 1, Layne set a timer before he died. Option 2, someone else was in the apartment, watched him die, took a photo, then vanished from a locked room. Option 3, the impossible. Layne took the photo himself after he died. Jerry wanted option 1 to be true, but there was no evidence of a timer. Option 2 was even worse. Who would watch someone die and not help? Which left option 3. One night, in 2003, Jerry dreamed he was in Layne's empty apartment. The door opened. Light poured through. Layne stood there, smiling. It's real, brother. The doors are real. I took one last photo for you, so you'd believe. Jerry woke up, crying. Whether it was really Layne or just his subconscious, the message was clear. Believe. Nancy, Jerry, Mike, and Sean made a decision. The world could know about the tapes and letters, but the wooden box, the doors, the Polaroids, those stayed secret. People will think he was insane, Nancy said. They'll make him a joke. I won't let them do that to my son. They sealed everything away. For 50 years. Until 2052. But Mike Starr couldn't let it go. In 2010, entering celebrity rehab, Mike broke down. Layne told me something the last time I saw him. He said, "I found my door, Mike. Demri's waiting." I thought he was high. But now, I think he was telling the truth. That part was cut from the show. Too strange. Mike died March 8, 2011. Officially accidental overdose. But 2 weeks before, he called Jerry at 3 a.m. "I saw my door, Jerry. At my old apartment from '93. Glowing. The same way Layne described. I think it's time." Jerry begged him to come over. Mike said no. Said he was ready to see Layne again. At Mike's funeral, Jerry didn't mention the doors, but after, he went to Mike's old apartment and stared at the door for an hour. He saw nothing special. Maybe doors only appear to those meant to walk through them. In a vault in Seattle, the wooden box waits, along with Nancy McCallum's final letter, written in 2019, 1 year before she died. Nobody knows what that letter says, but Nancy's diary offers a clue. "I wrote to the future today. I told them about the light I saw in Layne's apartment window the night after his funeral. An empty, sealed apartment with no electricity, but there was light, and a figure moving past the window. I knew then, the doors are real." In 2052, someone will read this, someone who can judge without grief, and they'll decide, was Layne a genius who discovered something profound, or a broken man who created a beautiful delusion? I know what I believe. In 27 years, the world will know too. 27 more years until the vault opens, until we know what Nancy wrote, until the doors are revealed. Till then, the mystery remains. Layne Staley died, believing in doors, believing in light, believing Demri was waiting. Whether he was right doesn't matter.